All right. First of all, I want to say welcome to Simon. Simon from Alchemist Distillers out in British Columbia, Summerland, if I remember correctly. So thank you so much, Simon, for joining us. I think one of my fondest memories of working with your distillery so far was you had a couple firsts for us. You were one of our first gins, which for our whiskey organization was big for me. But you were also our first Canadian. So yay! That was awesome to be able to start working with a Canadian distiller such as yourself. So, got a few questions I just want to go through tonight and have the ability to be able to have everyone learn a bit more about who you are and what you do and how you got into this industry. And then, as you can see behind me there, very much look forward to going through the spirits with you and kind of having you explain to me a little bit about how we should be enjoying them, what kind of profiles that you built the spirits around. I know that you had, you kind of alluded to me with the absinthe in particular in our early discussions, that you brought a French recipe for absinthe to British Columbia. So things like that, I think, will be very kind of exciting to kind of learn about what you're doing. So welcome.
Well, thank you. Now I'm very pleased to work with you guys. Indeed, we craft distillery in the Okanagan Valley in BC, and what makes us unique is we do everything apple based. I mean, not unique, but like not common.
Cool.
So we opened a year and a half ago, and we've got 4 products: gin, apple liqueur, absinthe, and recently released a vodka. And yeah, so that's that.
And what was kind of like the kickoff point for you? Like, what made you say, I want to open a distillery, and what got you into this industry to begin with?
I'm chemical engineer by trade. I was working in pharmaceutical production, and I was playing around at home distilling. I made my own little still, and I was playing. And but the big pharma, that wasn't my thing. I didn't like the big political and things, and I wanted to do my own thing. So it was just making sense for me to go that way. At the time, I was living in Switzerland. I'm from France, and then we decided to give Canada a try for that for that project. So we arrived in Canada 2014, end of 2014, and we wanted to see if we could make that happen. And then so
Quite the move then.
Sorry? Yeah.
Okay, so you went from chemical engineering and saying big pharma wasn't where you wanted to be. What led you towards a distillery? Had you always had an interest in kind of the spirits, like over in France?
Well, I was distilling at home. I was making absinthe at home, and I was making all sorts of liqueur and having fun. And because I was in Switzerland, and absinthe, it's from in between France and Switzerland, so very close to that area, and that's where I'm from too, from France. And so I was distilling, and I'm very hands-on, so like starting my own business was for me to just where I was going to, and distillery definitely.
Nice. Well, it's a good translation of skills. I'm sure there's a lot of chemistry involved, kind of in the creation of products.
Big time. Well, you can see behind the still.
Yeah.
We'll see that a little bit later, but I designed it and had it custom made. So first, That's where my
You got to geek out and have a good time doing it, right?
yeah, definitely.
And like obviously it was probably a bit of a shift of an industry. Like it sounds like you had been, you know, like designing your own liqueurs and everything like that, but taking it from kind of almost like a U brew kind of concept in France and then coming over and opening a distillery. Was there anybody that, you know, be it in France or be it when you arrived in Canada, that kind of mentored you through the process of getting a distillery going, or was it something that you just kind of like threw yourself full into and did an amazing job?
No. So the plan was for like to go in little details. We arrived in Vancouver and it was October. So we wanted to spend the winter in British Columbia rather than in the prairies where it was cold.
Yeah.
And so the plan was for me to work in a craft distillery here, to have like just for a few months, just for the winter, to have a small insight of the business, and not to fall into the first obvious trap if you've got no idea about leading like small craft distillery like this. So I worked for a few months with Legend Distilling that are in the Okanagan Valley too, and I worked for a few months. And then another few months, and then I ended up working for a year for those guys, and that was really good. And then it was time for me for my project to get real. So I'm not doing at all the same thing. They are wheat base spirit, vodka and whiskey and all that. Very good products too. And then I went for the more local sourced, the apples. Yeah.
Nice. And like obviously it's great to hear that you had solid mentorship in doing it. Like is, you know, the Okanagan Valley, you know, all across Alberta, even in Ontario, we're seeing this massive boom of craft distillers starting to come out and really kind of take off. Is there any advice that you would give to somebody who's getting into the industry? Was there anything that you look back now and say, I would have been able to avoid this headache if I had known this when I first got into it?
I don't have advice that I would do better.
Good.
No. I had some hiccups, but I mean, I don't have the solutions for it.
Okay. Fair enough.
But I definitely got lots of help from those guys and other local distillers. It's the big advice I would have is our community, like business, we are really passionate about it, and we are very willing to give advice, to give, to share and then to help. So seek advice towards like your local guy, and I'm pretty sure he's going to give you a hand on that. So that's I'm very thankful for those guys there. Yeah.
So you would say it's a really collaborative kind of industry. Like people obviously have their own strengths and everything, but it's not like they come at each other or are combative with one another. There's a certain collaboration and cohesion between them.
It's not a real competition between us. We're more competition against the industrial ones, which are much cheaper. The quality is not the same quality. And so like it's not so much competition. We the bigger we are, the more we create awareness and so that's great. Also, I'm part of a winery association here.
Okay.
Like in my town, there's no distillery. There's a strong winery association, the Bottleneck Drive of Summerland, and I had great support and help from those guys too. So lots of help from everybody here.
And like, obviously the Okanagan is like been revered for kind of the distilleries that are coming out of there for a number of years now. Do you have any thoughts on like, for whether yourself or whether like British Columbia kind of distilleries in general, what that landscape might look like in about 5 to 10 years? Do you see any kind of emerging trends, I guess, for the Okanagan Valley distillers?
How to say, in BC, the craft distilleries could really make a business since 2014 or end of 2013 or something like this. So then it went a big boom, like lots of distilleries appeared, and I think now there is 100 license of BC. But that's not on. That's including, like, that's the wild. It's not only craft distilleries, but also like wineries that have distillery license and stuff. But still, that's quite a bit. I'm pretty sure it's going to slow down because there is already, for me, I struggle quite a bit at selling from liquor stores.
Okay.
It's more either like the tourist coming here, having the opportunity to taste it, or in festivals. But when we are side by side on the shelf, it's pretty hard to compete, because it's just
everybody's there.
Yeah, exactly. So
And
the wineries do it. So I'm not too sure. Yeah, it's very hard to say.
I must admit, like, one of the things that always grabbed me about your products before I even got the chance to try them was the branding. The design of the bottles and the unique character of each one of them. Yeah, like, it's beautiful artwork that you have on each one of your bottles. And, you know, I have a background in design. I remember doing one of the first product lines I ever worked on, and it was all about color theory and how to make things jump out on shelf. And the way that your products look would definitely give them a certain distinctive appearance in amongst, you know, especially things like gin and vodka, which tend to have very traditional clear bottles. Your labels are so different from a lot of other things that I've seen in this space, which is, it's definitely an eye-catching draw to them right out of the gate. So, like, you kind of touched a little bit on it. So you're saying that, like, a lot of way that you find the new business for your distillery is coming from the tourism industry and festivals. Like, how much of your business currently is not reliant, but is involved around the BC liquor stores versus that other kind of side of things? Like, is it like 50% liquor store and otherwise, or is it really swinging towards?
No, like 80-20.
Yeah.
80% from local sales. I mean, of the distillery or of a farmer's market. Or,
Wow.
Yeah. And 20 from liquor stores. And same like liquor stores, it's funny because there's like some liquor stores that sells it very well. So like a kind of community has built up, and they know the product, and they like it. And then some others where it just didn't pick up because, well,
it's competing against everybody else.
Yeah.
No, I would have no doubt that it's the exact same kind of struggle that, like, probably Ontario distilleries face when they're looking at the LCBO here in the province. It's one of those times where you walk in and people go for, you know, using vodka or gin as an example, it's like Beefeater or Absolute. Those are just brands that people are familiar with, and it doesn't mean doesn't mean their product's bad, but it doesn't mean that there's anything unique about it. Out of curiosity, the fact that 20% really is only the like the profit that comes for you from the BC liquor stores, is that one of the reasons that our model actually was intriguing to you? Because we're not primarily focused on retail, and we are focused on kind of the people who are passionate about craft?
Mostly, yeah. And then if, like more passionate, and then like the community, and this kind of event where the community is more, like your community is more susceptible to seek information and to find it.
Yeah. No, I think one of the biggest things that I noticed when I was getting this going, obviously with our namesake, and you can tell what spirit we started in, but it was so interesting for me, and one of the reasons that I was so thrilled when we did start to work together was the overlap between whiskey drinkers to especially gin. Like in the group of us, and now in the growing membership that we've got, I would say it's somewhere in the neighborhood of like 25 to 35% of whiskey drinkers naturally just gravitate towards gin as another spirit of choice. And I found that so interesting in general about how they cross-pollinate. Do you find people who, find your products often start with one product but then come back and they find that new enjoyment in one of your other lines?
Well, it's a funny assessment you make here. To me, gin and whiskey don't compete. You don't drink them the same time.
No, absolutely not. But I just find it was interesting that there was a certain percentage of the group that enjoyed both almost equally. And
but maybe. So what do the whiskey passionate drink as an aperitif? Are they more beer then?
I think it would. That's a good question. It'd be like on a macro side of things, I wouldn't know if I'd be able to give that answer truthfully. Yeah, it was just a very interesting realization for me, and the way that it came out, truthfully, was the way that our organization started was more of almost like a club. In which we did kind of quarterly rotations of spirit, like of LCBO spirit. And where it started to become apparent to me was the number of people that said, whiskey is cool, I'm enjoying this, I'm getting some bourbon I've never had before, so on and so forth. When are you going to do gin? And that was a real kind of moment for me when I started to notice the crossover between the enjoyers of whiskey and the enjoyers of gin, and how there's a certain overlap between them. Yeah, it was funny, I kind of ignored it for about the first couple of times, but by the time I had about 20 plus people asking me when are we going to start looking at gin, I'm like, okay, there's something here. Like there is something within this community that resonates with a gin cocktail as much as a bourbon or a scotch. And I've just found that interesting. It wasn't something that I ever thought to see, truthfully. But, when I look at the four products that you've got, I think what is very unique about you as a distillery is the diversity that you have. So often you have people that focus on, a lot of people start in the gin and vodka space, but then you've got this really interesting absinthe, which as we'll touch on shortly, it has some home heritage for you, and then the liqueur, like the apple nectar liqueur, like you're spanning a very wide kind of range of palates, and that's why I was curious to my earlier question if you had people that maybe came in for your gin, but then did like I did, tried your apple liqueur and go, oh my God, I just want this on ice cream now. And that's where my question came to about whether you have your own insights on your customers kind of starting in one direction but then expanding across your product line. That was all.
Yeah, no, I think they anybody that comes here lets himself seduce and and they try everything, and there's definitely people that comes, for example, for the absinthe, that's it, and then they live with a bottle of each.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I think what we should do is we will take a little break for a second, and we will actually get to enjoy your products.